Hello, my dear students. So, welcome back to our very important session of the natural resource. Last day we start this chapter, but today we are continue this chapter in later some important topic. In last class, we discussed about the atmosphere and the climate, and we already discussed what are the natural resource and what are the different atmosphere, hydrosphere, and lithosphere is there, and what is their importance. Also, we discussed the composition of air because this is the very important different type of gases there in our atmosphere. And last day also we discussed the different layers of the atmosphere, that is exosphere, thermosphere, mesosphere, right? Stratosphere, troposphere, that is a different layer already we discussed in our last class. But our today class is ultimately about the weather and the climate. This is the two important terms, which one we are very familiar with it. But what is the weather? Because you tell sometimes in your mobile phones or the TV, you watch the weather forecast. That is the most important things. But what is the weather? The day to day, the atmospheric, the condition of a particular place, because the weather is not a similar in the whole world or whole country or whole district. It is changed in the place to place with the respect to some factors like rainfall, humidity, temperature, and wind speed is weather, ultimately the weather, right? So weather means the what is the condition of the rainfall, and what is the condition of humidity, and what is the temperature of the particular any place, that is the weather. But what is the difference in the climate? What is the mean by the climate? Now we discuss this thing. What are the climate? Climate means the average weather condition of the place taken over a long period of time is called the climate. Different climatic zone is there in our world, right? Some tropical zone or temperate zone, because we are averagely find out the weather condition, right? This is the climate. But what factors other than atmosphere influence the climate? That is also a very important question. Factors other than the atmosphere which influence the climate. It is a very important things that is we discuss one by one. So this is the different factor. So what is the different factors? Number one, the angle of the sun ray. It is very important. Arctic or Antarctica regions, there is a time during a year when the sun is above the horizontal, ultimately 24 hours a day, right? There are also the times when does not rise at all. So the angle of the sun rays is a very important factor for determining the climate in a particular place. Another one, the winds. They bring the moisture in the land, and it is very important. The moisture landed winds coverage the tropics, ultimately forcing the air to rise. So they also take the important role in the climatic condition. Also the mountain, they force the wind to rise, it cross over them. So this cool the air, causing the moisture to condense into the clouds. So rain shadow and the downwind shadow, that is the most important. And finally the ocean, they provide the moisture and also the buffer the temperature of the coastal region. So coastal region and their climatic condition is mostly determined by the ocean. So this is the different factors other than the atmosphere, which is take the very important role, right? Now we are give some solve example like the how the scientists forecast the weather. It is very important. You watch weather forecast, but how do scientists are doing this thing? Weather forecastings mean the predicting what is the weather will be. So that is a very important. It is the next hour or much later during the day, The weather forecasting ultimately done with the help of a computer models, satellite information, that is very important. Satellite information is the most important things in the weather forecasting, and also some observation, trends, and the pattern, also some important factors which help the forecasting the weather, right? So now we are discuss about the wind and the rain, how the wind formation is happening and the rain formation is happening. So wind and rain. First of all, you know the wind and the rain are the two common atmospheric phenomena, right? And but what is the rain? Rain ultimately the actually the droplets of the water falling on the earth's surface. That is the rain, right? But whether do these weather droplets come from? That is a very important question. From where it is coming from? And very important, as the water above the earth's surface, it is a heats up. Water vapor get formed in that particular region. The vapor rise in the air. As the rise in the higher in the cooler atmosphere, they condense to form the white water droplets. And these droplets fuse to form a cloud and ultimately fall the rain. So this is the different steps, the how the rain or formation is takes place. You write down these things in one by one. Next, we are discuss about the wind. What are the wind? So it is actually the air current or the moving air. That is the wind. They are formed due to the unequal the heating of the air of the atmosphere above the land and the water throughout the day. So that is the main important reason from the moving of the air, right? So the direction of the movement of wind observing by the wind vane. And anemometer, it is the instrument which is used to measure the speed of the wind, right? The direction of the movement is very important for the wind, and what is the speed of the wind, that is the two important parameter which is very important for the wind, right? Next we discuss about the most important things, that formation of the winds during the day. What is the mechanism behind it? Now we are discuss this thing. As you observe in the coastal region, solar radiation in that particular region, the heat up and faster than the sea. So land region fast heat up compared to sea, and consequently the air above the land become hot faster because the land are hot in that regions and move upwards. As there are, as the air rise, it expand to the cools down. The vertical movement of water, the vertical movement of the water air is called the convection current movement of these things. And the convection of current caused the low pressure area and created the over the land, because that air ultimately moves from it, right? So that is the most important. Meanwhile, that is what is happening now. The high pressure area form over the watery surface. One side is the low pressure area, and the watery surface, the high pressure area. This is because the air over the sea is relatively cooler, and so they does not move upward. So they are condensed in that particular region. So the rising of the hot air leaves the behind the vacant space above the land. But how it is filled up? The air present over the water moves towards this vacant space, occupy it. In that particular point, it blows from the high pressure area over to see from the low pressure area. So that is the main reason for the formation of the wind, right? This is the very important. Now we discuss about very important things, formation of wind during the night. We already discussed that how the wind formation is takes place in the daytime, but what is happening in the night time? You can observe that in that particular picture also. At night, what is happening? The situation get reversed. Land cools down faster than the water, so land is cooled very fast compared to water. So therefore, the air over the land is cooler than over the sea. Now what is happening? The warm air above the water rise, leveling behind the low pressure zone, and a vacant space are created. At the same time, the air above the land is relatively cooler and it does not rise, and consequently the high pressure zone is formed. Same things but just opposite direction. The air over the lands move towards the vacant space and above the water and occupy it. So in that particular night time, what is happening now? The wind blows from the high pressure zone above the land to the low pressure zone above the sea, right? That is the most important thing. But when you write down in the exam, that time you write down it is the one by one in the pointing manner, right? You bear in mind. So this is very important. Now we discuss the very important some factors. Factors which influencing the wind. So the some factors which influence the flow of wind. Number one, the air pressure. So wind always blow from high pressure area to the low pressure area. So they take the important role. Also the temperature, because temperature is directly involving that particular process. So the energy that drive the wind originated in the sun. From it, the sun's radiation help the earth's surface heat up. You already know that the water regions and land region, the temperature and the hot and the heat of condition is totally different, showing that during the day the wind blows from sea to land. This is called the sea bridge. At the night, wind blow from land to sea. Because the wind blow land to sea, so it is called the land bridge. It is very important. Two things is there. Some other factors which influencing the flow of wind. So this is the earth rotation. It is most important. The rotation of the earth causes the wind to shift their direction, right? Also the mountain range, the presence of the mountain range in the part of wind prevent the winds from the moving forward and induce them to change their direction, because they act as like barrier, right? So the mountain range also take the important factors for the blowing the wind. Clear? You understand these things? Now we have discussed the formation of rain. We already discussed this thing, how the rain is formation is done. But now we are again we have discussed this thing, the how the rain is formed. So you know the when the water present in the over the earth's surface, it is the heat. Due to the radiation of the sun, the water vapor are formed. Now this vapor rise along the with the hot water, and this rising the vapor cool down at a lower temperature in the upper atmosphere and start condensing, and this ultimately leads to the formation of the droplets of the water, and droplets combine to form the clouds, and the millions of droplets in the cloud keep growing in the size due to the condensation. When these drops become so large that can no longer be held in the cloud, so they fall down as a rain. So this is the process behind the rain formation, right? So it is the most important thing. Now we discuss the very important question, what is the importance of water? What is the importance of water in your body also? You know, the most important things is that It is most important that the in water, without water, that is not. So importance of the water. You know, our body, 60% of our body is made up of water. 60%, you cannot imagine it. So why ultimately, wow, why water is present in our body? So what is the importance of the water? So now we are discuss the water plays some important role in some different vital processes in our body, right? All the cellular process, that means it is happening inside the cell. It is takes place in the water medium. So water is the medium for the reaction of the different type of chemical processes happening inside the cell, right? So what is the different function or importance of the water? It regulates the body temperature, it moisture of the tissue or the mouth or the eyes, also the that take the important role by water. Also the protect the body organs and the tissue, and help the prevent the constipation, reduce the burden and on the kidney and the liver by flushing out the waste product, help the dissolved materials and other nutrients to make them accessible to all the body parts, and help to carry the nutrient and oxygen into the cell. Also, they help the lubrication of the joints. This the main portion is the water. So water take up the main important role, right? So now we are discuss the importance of the water and other life forms. You know, the aquatic animals, they live in the water. So water does the centrally in their lives, right? But you know, the terrestrial animals, that means terrestrial animals means they live on the land, and they do need the fresh water for ultimately carrying out the different various life processes. So all the living things, they may be the aquatic, they may be terrestrial, all of them require the water, right? So the availability of the water play the important role in the deciding the number of individual of the each species that will be able to survive in the particular area, right? So this is the most important thing. You know, the fresh water, it is utilized by the human for the consumption, and municipality wastewater treatment is there, where we treat the wastewater and clean the water. After it, we are sent it to the home for consumption or usable work. So water is the most important things, and it is required in every day. And without water, without air, we cannot survive. You cannot imagine any life without air, without water, right? So it is a many most important these things, but the water is very important. So we require to conserve the water. One way by which we can help the reduce the demand for water to conserve the water. But how you conserve the water? Number one, by turning off the tap while it is the brushing. By not using the more water, then water is required while the bathing time. By the closing the tap while the washing the utensils, and by washing the vehicles using a mug or the bucket of water and not with a hose pipe, because that time water loss is so tremendously. Or otherwise, very important thing, the storing of the rainwater in tanks or other storage area for further use. It is the most important things for the conserving the water. So what is this very useful in our day and daily life, right? So it is used for the drinking, right? For washing purpose, we use the water. It is used in the fields or the irrigation. For ultimately bathing, we use the water. And today, water is also for use for generation of the electricity. So this is the different uses of the water. Now we discuss the another very important things in our nature, that is the soil, and how the soil formation and takes place and what is their importance. Number one, The important factor that influence the living component of the earth in various ecosystems is the nature of the soil. You know, the soil is a layer of earth that resolve the form of degradation of the basement rock. The rock is degraded and soil are formed, right? You know, but in the soil, the different type of things is there, minerals is there, air is there, water is there, and organic matters, and some humus, some organisms also is there in our soil. So soil is the very important reservoir or all the different things. But some components of the soil, so small particles of the rock, humus, microscopic like bacteria and fungi, and some nutrient that is very important for the plant, also it is present in the soil. But you know, the important constituent of the soil is the organic compound or organic substance. It is comprising the dead or decaying leaves of the plant parts or something in the animal parts also there. These organic materials, after decomposing, it is called the humus, right? The humus, it is very important, which turn to determine the structure and fertility of the soil. The porous nature of the soil also very important. It allows the water and air pass through it. Porosity show is very important. So the quality of the soil is influenced by the microscopic organism present on it. It is suitable for microscopic organisms, so in the soil they present on it. Humus and some nutrient content of the soil play the important role in determining the type of plant that the soil can support. So different type of soil and different plant can grow on that particular region. So the components are found in the topmost layer of the soil. Topmost layer, it is called the topsoil, right? It is called the topsoil. Topsoil which decide the type of plant and animal life will be found on it. So topsoil is a very important. So what is the importance of soil? Now we discuss this thing, importance of the soil. So it is the medium of the crop production and absorbing of the gases, medium for the plant growth, it is the most important. Some home of the organisms, plant, animals, and other organisms are present in the on the above of the soil. So essential natural resources are present on the soil. This is filter off the water and waste and is a source for materials for the construction, medicines, air, all of these things. And it is a part of the waste decomposer. And it is a snapshot of the geological, climatic, biological, and human history and great integrator. That is the different importance of the soil. All is a very important. But soil forming factors. The following factors influence the formation of soil. Number one, the parent material. The material from which the soil is made is very important and it is determined the types of soil are formed. Another one important is the climate. Climatic factors such as rain, snow, heat, wind help to break down the bedrocks over a period of time. So climate is a very important thing. Also important the topography. What does that mean by topography? This indicates the surface features of the area such as the land type, the water bodies. It is called the topography. And it is effect also in the soil formation. Also organism dead remaining of the plant or animals are from the organic matter in the soil. And this is the food for the microorganism, mainly the decomposer, mainly the saprophytic organism, which take this dead organic matter as the food. So they are present on the soil and they are help to soil formation. They take the very important roles. Some type of saprotopes, some type of fungi, some type of bacteria, and some earthworm and this type of animals take the very important role. And finally, the time. Time, the soil for over 100,000 of years, it takes for the soil formation, right? So, role of the climatic factor for the soil formation. You know, the sunlight heat up the rocks and the earth's surface also, thereby ultimately expanding them. When something is heated, they expand, and the rocks after in the night, the rocks cool down and they contract in that particular time. This repeated and unequal heating and cooling of the rock parts indicate the cracks are formed in that, in particular this portion of the rocks, and ultimately the huge rocks break up into the smaller pieces and resulting the formation of the soil. Very important things. Also, role of the wind in the soil formation, the storing of the strong wind wear down or the erode rocks, and the soil particles that form carried out along with the winds get deposited in the place. Another important thing is the role of water in the soil formation. The water ultimately entered the rocks through the cracks on them. The water freeze at the low temperature, thereby ultimately expanding the rocks, and the rocks contract when the frozen waters melt, and this repeated expansion and contraction of the rocks over the time, they are breaking the smaller species, right? But the already we discussed that soil pollution. It is ultimately very important that in the soil they mix up some toxic substance or some chemicals, radioactive materials. They are ultimately cause the soil pollution. So some of the important cause of the soil pollution, like they have pesticide, plastic producer products, chemical fertilizer, and water logging is the most important some reason for the soil pollution. So how you are prevent the measure, can you adopt the reduce the soil pollution? Treating the waste material before it is disposal, reducing the use of plastic or polythene bags, or minimizing the use of chemical fertilizer, using proper irrigation system. This is the different techniques that is we help to prevent the soil pollution. But most important things is there, that is the most important things, right? Very, very important. So now we have discussed most important things, that is the soil erosion. The soil erosion, the removal of the top layer of the soil is known as the soil erosion. And it is one form of soil is ultimately degradation is happening. But the factors causing the soil erosion is the two type. It's the natural and the human induced some factors which are most important for the soil erosion. So some natural factors which is responsible for soil erosion. Number one, rainfall. High intensity of the rainfall losing the soil particles and disperse them, and erosion increase the unexpectedly with the severity of the rainstorm. And flooding, very important. Flooding frequent flooding of rivers causing the topsoil of the field near the river banks to be carried out by the floods water. And the wind also, sometimes the wind can cause the soil erosion. On the other hand, the slope gradient, this ultimately taper of the slope of the field, the greater will be the amount of soil loss from the erosion by the water. And now we have discussed some human induced factors of the soil erosion, like most importantly the deforestation, right? Intestinal of the large scale of cutting down the tree leads to the destruction of the permanent vegetation. And in this absence of the trees, the chance of the soil erosion by the water is increased. And the over ultimately cropping, continuously growing the crops in a particular field year after year, causing the soil ultimately deplete the nutritional quantity, and this practice require ultimately reduce the availability of the soil to produce the valuable humans, and which help regarding the fertility of the soil. But how you are prevent the soil erosion, that is the most important. Number one, afforestation. The roots of the tree bind the top layer of the soil. So large scale of the planting of the soil is preventing the soil erosion. Also some trace farming. What is the mean by trace farming? When water flow with the speed on the mountains, it carries along with some particles of topsoils. To avoid this, sides of the mountain can be cut out into the steps like the stairs. This slow down the flow of water, right? And some also proper irrigation techniques or proper embankments should be constructed around the rivers to prevent the soil erosion, right? So this is the point we are already discussed. And so today we discuss the most important something in the natural resource. If any doubts or any question, please you write down in the comment section, right? So thank you all of you, and wish you best of luck. Thank you very much.